Good morning, and thank you so much for having the opportunity to present a little bit more about the International Women's Forum. As some of us have said, it's a bit of a secret society, all good, but we want you to know a little bit more about who we are. A special thank you goes out to Sarah Jane Snook, who's an IWF member from Halifax, who came to the Canadian Water Network Conference in 2013. And as we worked our way through the water dialogue, she really felt that this was a collaboration that we should seriously consider. And so a very special thank you to Sarah Jane, to Bernadette. It's been a pleasure to work with her, and especially with Caitlin, who's like an air traffic controller, as she's helped us with all of our details, getting everybody here at different points in time. I'm co-chair of the Water Dialogue for International Women's Forum of Canada, otherwise known as IWFC. And I want to talk to you a little bit about why women and why water. So a little bit of background about IWF. It's a private, membership-based, nonprofit corporation with international headquarters in Washington. Membership is by invitation only and is influenced by definitive international standards. All members are committed to bettering global leadership today, and especially cultivating women leaders for tomorrow. Initially founded in 1982 in New York, IWF has grown across 6 continents into 33 nations with more than 5,500 women in Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, Europe, Latin America, the Middle East, and North America. So it's all about advancing women's leadership across careers, cultures, continents by connecting the world's most preeminent women, women of significant and diverse achievement. IWF brings together an unprecedented global membership to exchange ideas, learn and inspire, and promote better leadership for a changing world. And we have conferences. We have an international conference every year, which is hosted around the world. We have regional conferences. For us, it's North America. And then we have our national conference. So the question that you're probably asking is, how the heck did I become a member? Well, people become members in many different ways. We target individuals who we really want to be on our team, but we meet individuals who we think would be welcome additions. I was on a delegation to the Middle East in 2007, and this was led by a Muslim woman who was really wanting a better understanding of the differences between cultures, and so please come, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Amman, and Cairo. I've just sent a couple of emails this morning saying we better have a reunion because of everything that's going on. But I was at a member's home in Amman, Jordan, a lawyer, a leading family in that community. And this one lady on the delegation said, "Are you a member of IWF?" And I said, "What is IWF?" So she said, "Well, you must become one, and when you go back to Toronto, we'll find some sponsors." So it comes from many, many, many different ways where our members have arrived into the organization. IWF in Canada was founded in Montreal in 1995, so this year is our 20th anniversary. We have over 500 members and 7 chapters across Canada, so again, a very national organization. And our vision for IWF Canada is to create a reality where women leaders are fully represented in positions of highest decision-making. Now, to a large extent, we've come together as a group, we talk amongst ourselves, but we really haven't moved off the mark to make a lot of things happen. That's all started to change probably about 3 or 4 years ago, as women now are becoming more active in realizing the power of their influence, and if you're really committed to what you say you are, then what can we do to make some good things happen? So IWF Canada's vision and mission are underpinned by our key values of integrity, professionalism, camaraderie, and respect as we advance women's leadership both locally and globally. One example of our vision in action is a strategic initiative, Members on Boards. And again, we've all talked about more members need to be on boards, but how many members were on boards? So a very active strategic initiative was cast about 2 years ago. Again, we've collaborated. There's nothing better than working with like-minded organizations. IWF collaborated with Catalyst, the 30% Club. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's, again, coming out of the UK. similar to more women on boards, and I think Canada will launch a 30% club later this spring. And we contributed to the launch of the Ontario Security Commission's Comply or Explain initiative. We want corporations to understand the true value to their bottom line of having more women on their boards, and this is a comply or explain. Obviously, if it doesn't work, then more stringent measures will be put in place. And advancing women's leadership to these high levels is what we have now named Own the Future. And we modeled the Own the Future idea behind the Own the Podium theme for the 2010 Vancouver Olympics. And that's where Canadian Olympians were exceptional, doing well, but we weren't winning the medals. So very bold statement for all the Canadians who are present. You remember it was like, oh my goodness, we really stepped out and put ourselves out there. But guess what? The results were unprecedented. So within the IWF world, we now have a program that is called Own the Future, and we really want to step up and make some very, very significant things happen. As I've mentioned to a couple of people, and this is again something that we all know but we don't talk about very often, women are often not the best advocates for other women. And so one of our strategic initiatives was sponsoring women, and that simply meant that you go out of your way to be a champion to help some other woman get to where you feel that would be an ideal spot for her. One of our really exciting programs is helping champion young emerging women leaders. And internationally, we have a program called the Fellows Program, where we sponsor an emerging young woman leader in Canada to participate in this signature Global Leadership Development Program, where over a year, that group of 25 to 30 from around the world will spend some time at Harvard, at INSEAD, and collaborating on what in the world is going on, and as young women, how can we make a difference in this world collectively? And again, you can see the power of how that all works. Another one of our initiatives is Leadership Exchange. We changed that name from mentoring. I don't know if you know Ann Medina, but she was on the team, and she said, get rid of that mentoring word. It's got to be more than that. So we have called it Leadership Exchange, and again, with all intents and purposes, it's to make a huge difference. So where the heck did the Water Dialogue come from? Well, very simply, Canada hosted the International Conference in 2010. It was in Montreal, and if you get a chance, we've got two special members coming for lunch today. One is Deborah Trudeau, who was the president of IWF in Canada, as well as the Montreal chapter. And it was her initiative prior to that conference in picking that theme of water. The conference was entitled Water, Wealth, and Power for the Eco-Century, 2010. It was a resounding success, and since then, as we've gone to conferences and met with some of the women who came, they kept saying, oh my goodness, you're from Canada. That was the best conference I went to. And so there was then momentum to talk more about, okay, how do we keep this going? Some of the guest speakers at that conference were Alexandra Cousteau, founder of the Blue Legacy, Guy Laliberte, founder of Cirque du Soleil with his One Drop Foundation, again, an amazing presentation, and all sorts of other presentations of significance that were as varied as global geography, political will, arts and scientific advances. The whole issue was around water. So since that conference, and again, co-chairs coming out of that, one is Kim Sturgis, I think you may know of her, and how do we keep this whole topic going? We know that Canada is a water-rich nation, and we know that we've got a role to play locally and globally to champion this resource through our actions of sharing knowledge, leadership, education, collaboration, and passion. We care, and we believe we have both a responsibility and a huge opportunity to make a difference as influential women leaders. So this Water Dialogue was established, and again, it was called Water Dialogue because it was, as we all know, the topic of water is huge. So we didn't want it to be any one aspect of water in particular. So we, along the way, have collaborated with Alberta WaterSmart, Rotary International's Water for Humanity, One Drop Foundation, Alexander Cousteau's Blue Legacy, the de Gaspé-Bobin Foundation's Youth and Water Project, Water Hero, which is a game, and now, of course, the Canadian Water Network, which is super. So some of the activities that we have had by chapter: Montreal chapter held a dynamic exchange with members and 3 water experts on the care and concerns regarding the health of the St. Lawrence River. Calgary and Edmonton chapters both hosted discussions on water technologies and sustainability. Again, Kim Sturgis was the guest speaker for both of those events. Toronto chapter hosted 2 events. One was with Dr. Brent Wooten, who's a UN resource from the Center for Wastewater Management at Fleming College in Lindsay, to discuss wastewater management challenges globally. Again, that was a really, really interesting talk. And the other is we had a First Nations individual, Melanie Goodchild from the Canadian Red Cross. She's the National Director for Aboriginal and Northern Disaster Management, who talked about increasing capacity in First Nations communities in Ontario. And some of the, as you well know, it can be the simplest thing or it can be the biggest thing. One of the aspects with increasing capacity is just making sure that First Nations people, children in particular, have access to Red Cross swimming lessons, because we know often it is drowning that's a leading cause of death. So it's as simple as that. And the Atlantic chapter hosted an evening with a young female water scientist who has created a company along other young women entrepreneurs to sell their water expertise. Our annual meetings are hosted by various chapters. The one in Halifax a year and a half ago talked a lot about water security and the oceans, the border security with the Navy to the east, the west, and the north. Last year it was in Calgary, so we had an opportunity to go to the oil sands. Upcoming events that I think are going to be particularly, I'm done, I'm out. Does the floor disappear? Is Linda McCarthy. You've seen her on some of the programming in Imogen Co. And I think that event will be huge.